Ninigret, legendary sachem of the Niantics and Narragansetts, and King Philip, sachem of the Wampanoags, were both influential leaders during the 17th century, but their styles on political strategies concerning both the English and the neighboring Indian tribes were quite different from each other. Ninigret focuses throughout his years as a sachem was primarily his relationships with other Indian groups and how he could benefit his people from these relationships. Into his old age, he gradually began to avoid confrontation with other sachems and the English in order to keep his people out of harm's way, especially as the colonists' number and power began to grow. As a young sachem, there were accounts of him raiding other Indian villages in search of wampum and prisoners for political leverages. He also wanted to be respected and feared as a sachem by both the Indian nations and the English colonies. A focal point in Ninigret's political stratagem was the relationship he made with the Indians and the English for the purpose of creating alliances when necessary in battle. However, he rarely kept his promises and treaties, leading them to doubt his loyalty to any group in particular. Ninigret's true loyalty lay only with his own people. The English found that Ninigret only agreed to English terms as long as it benefited his situation, yet they understood that it was better to have a shaky friendship with Ninigret than clear animosity. Ninigret used his word-savvy personality to help him both convince and fool the English throughout his entire political career. Philip's strategy shared many of the same ideas as Ninigret when he was younger. Philip was very concerned with expanding the groups that paid him tributaries, much like Ninigret. Philip asserted his dominion and earned reverence by attacking other Indian nations and by carefully crafting potentially beneficial marriages between his people and other Indian tribes. Philip had learned a few things from watching Ninigret and decided to approach potential Indian allies with promises of protection and support rather than oppression. Like Ninigret, Philip understood the necessity of connections within the Indian tribes, and he sought friendships and alliances to advance his plans of attack on the English colonies. The great difference in Ninigret and Philip's strategies were their motives. Philip was a young sachem, greatly concerned with his growing territory, while Ninigret was older, more powerful, and therefore had a greater responsibility to protect the nation he had already built. Philip would only end up costing Ninigret, as he understood the dangers involved with the English and their Mohawk alliances. Eventually, King Philip's war drew to an end, with the Indian tribes' resistance failing under the power of English numbers. Yet the two sachems' history remains today as an example of the advanced and complex leadership that Ninigret and Philip executed in an attempt to both advance and preserve their people.
Created using Powtoon.